Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. And thank you all for joining me today. I see some friends I haven't seen in a while, and also hopefully some new friends. I'm going to start right off by sharing my screen and sharing some slides that will help me set the stage, so to speak, for this conversation. So let's begin by closing your eyes. Now, often when I'm doing this at a physical event, I can actually see that everyone's closing their eyes, but I'm going to have to trust you all. So close your eyes and imagine that you're going to an event. Now, I know you probably miss events a lot, but think back when you went to physical events, you would get your badge, you would get your program, and you'd head off to your first session. Now, that first session is going to be the most amazing experts in your industry. These are the people that everyone looks up to. What I want to know is, open your eyes. Does that panel look like this? We call this the all male, all pale, and all stale panel. It is what we all see so often at industry conferences and events, right? The same four old white guys. I have nothing against old white guys. I'm married to one, but I don't want to be hearing about them all the time. And I certainly don't want to be hearing them talking all the time. These panels have got to go. I have to tell you, 2/3 of all conference speakers are men, and that is why we keep seeing the manels. Conferences and events have a problem. It's a visible problem. We can see it all the time. And it's really indicative of a lot of different industries. If you look, for example, at the tech industry, where I worked for many years, you look at the management levels, you look at the percentages of women who are in these industries, and often the percentages are very similar to the percentages of people who get on stage. It's so bad that it is mocked on social media. Congrats, you have an all-male panel is a Tumblr where you can post your own pictures of all-male panels. The thing is, you first have to stamp your picture with a picture of David Hasselhoff giving that event manager a big thumbs up. There are other mockings out there. This is screens from an app called the Gender Avenger Tally. The GA Tally is something you can download for free on your phone. You can put in the number of speakers, male and female, at a conference or an event, and it will generate a social media ready image that you can send out, putting the hashtag for the event in to make sure that the event organizers know. And you can put up some nice little messages. For example, I love the third one, cloudy with a chance of patriarchy. Thunderstorm of gender inequality. And hopefully you get to see some events where the future and the present are bright, i.e. those great gender balanced panels. Hi, I love Linda's introduction of me. I do talk a little bit about my day job, my night job, and my dream job. I talk a little bit as well about TEDx, who wouldn't talk about their TEDx panel. And I was also invited to speak at the United Nations. Now, before you get all excited about that, it was not general sessions or anything like that. I was invited to talk about blockchain. Yes, I'm in marketing. I know absolutely nothing about blockchain, but I was invited to speak at a conference about blockchain, about the lack of women in blockchain. That is something I know a little bit about. However, I also got busy over the pandemic. Think of it as pandemic retail therapy. I bought 2 more companies. So, My Speaker Leads is another service for speakers. We go out, we do the research for speakers, and Lioness Magazine for the female entrepreneur. This is another way that I have of supporting women and getting them that thought leadership positioning that we know they all need. Part of this is because I consider it my job to get all of you to say yes to public speaking. If you're thinking about public speaking, I'm sure a lot of you have been indoctrinated, we'll call it, with all of those scary statistics about how people are so frightened of public speaking. And it's really, sometimes very scary. A lot of people have seen the stats that say that public speaking is the number one fear that most people have. Dying comes in somewhere around number 7 on the list. And so why should I get out there and do public speaking, right? Like, people are more interested and happier to be dying than they are to do public speaking. So why speak? Because visibility drives business and career opportunity. Every time you get on stage, you get a chance to tell your story. And it helps. It helps on so many levels. Let's talk a little bit about why public speaking helps you. These are the benefits of public speaking. We call them the 5 C's. The first C is career. Companies love to hire people who are comfortable with public speaking. It allows them to see who is confident in their abilities. And also, when you're doing public speaking, you're demonstrating your competence in different areas. Again, that confidence, all right? This is the second C. When you are doing public speaking, you're not only demonstrating your confidence, but you're building your confidence. As we do more public speaking, we get more comfortable with it and we demonstrate confidence. Cash. Cold hard cash is number 3. Did you know that if you are not comfortable with public speaking, it is reflected in your paycheck? That's right. People who are not confident and comfortable with public speaking earn less. And they earn less so much that the richest man in America has a very famous quote about this. And a lot of people have actually seen this quote and they're familiar with it because it is used in Dale Carnegie marketing. Warren Buffett was actually famously terrified of public speaking to the point he would get physically ill when he had to stand on stage and do a presentation. He took a Dale Carnegie course. Everything is all better. So Dale Carnegie uses this quote. However, even though people are kind of familiar with it, they've seen it before, they don't know the story behind this. The story is that Mr. Buffett was off speaking at Columbia University. He was speaking to a class of MBA students. He told them that he wanted to invest in them personally. He would sit down and write a check immediately for $100,000 if they would give him a percentage of their future earnings. Now, I'm picturing all of these MBA students frantically trying to figure out if this was a good deal for Warren or a good deal for them. But he had a little bit of extra offer in mind as well. He told them that he would give them $150,000 for the exact same percentage of their future earnings, because if they were comfortable with public speaking and they worked on their public speaking skills, they would earn more and they were worth more to him. So 50% increasing your value over your lifetime just by concentrating on public speaking skills. If you are out there doing public speaking, you're often trying to prioritize your public speaking opportunities. So as I mentioned, or as Linda mentioned earlier, I do somewhere around 100 speaking engagements a year. And this has actually increased over the pandemic. It's a heck of a lot easier for me to do speaking engagements from my house versus having to go somewhere, fly, or drive somewhere and then come back. So my number of speaking opportunities has increased and my pace of speaking has increased. So, like a lot of speakers, I have to prioritize. Most people prioritize by looking at the numbers. They say, how many people are going to be in that room? That's actually only a small percentage of the universe and the connections that you get from public speaking. Let's think about this. Say you are speaking to a room of 100 people and you happen to say something brilliant, and someone in the audience tweets it out, or they post it on Facebook, or they mention it in a LinkedIn post. Suddenly, you are not just making connections to the people in the room, you're making connections to their connections. It doesn't end there, though. Think about how companies market events. They market their speakers. They market their speakers' topics. They market their speakers' expertise. When they start marketing an event, they are marketing you. They are putting out there your name, your company name, the topic, and the area of expertise that you're speaking on. You're going out in all of the emails that they send. If they use social media, they are going out in the social media, any advertisements. When you get to the show, everybody picks up a program, right? Your name, your face, your company name, your topic are in that program. So you're getting exposure to all of the people who are attending the overall event, even if they are not showing up in your room for your presentation. And then there's the post-event marketing that happens. A lot of conferences these days are doing just what Linda's doing. They are recording the sessions. These recordings have whole other lives. So when you're thinking about prioritizing your speaking engagements, it isn't just the people in the room. It's the connections that are made before you get to the event, after you get to the event, and from anybody in that room who decides to share your little bon mots. So connections is the next C. And then there's credibility. When you're on stage, you are the expert. You're not only physically elevated on a platform when you're speaking on a stage, you are mentally elevated. When you're at the front of the room, people instantly think of you as the expert. You know more than they do because you have been vetted. You have especially been selected. You're the expert. I'm going to do a little digression here. Did you know that in a lot of speaking, people think of themselves, I'm going to be doing this for thought leadership. I'm going to be doing this to demonstrate my expertise. Those are actually two different things. When you're looking at an event, often the people who are the keynotes or the featured speakers are visionaries and thought leaders. They are not necessarily experts. Experts generally are the people who are on the panels, generally the people holding workshops. The experts are talking about how-tos. They teach you how to do something. Thought leaders and visionaries, they teach you how to think about the world. They teach you how to think differently about things. So when you're thinking about your own public speaking, you may decide to go down the track of being seen as an expert. It's often a great way to get new clients if you're doing things from the point of view of a business owner who is demonstrating their expertise. Or you may want to start thinking about how you can demonstrate thought leadership and your visionary view of the world. Two different types of public speaking. All right, back to the topic at hand. Those are the 5 C's. Now, why should we all care? Even if you're not a business owner, even if you're not a C-level executive, you still should be thinking about public speaking, especially as women. Public speakers are role models. And it's not just about gender and just about women. We all want to see diverse and inclusive events and speakers. It's more than just gender, it's personal characteristics, it's ability, it's culture, so much more than just being women on stage. We are representing so many different people. Anytime somebody who is in the audience sees a person that they can identify with on stage, we are all winning. And again, my goal is to get everybody in this room to say yes to public speaking. Now, let's talk about the speaker's paradise. This is a theory that I have, that there are so many opportunities out there. It's like a paradise. Pre-pandemic, did you know there were more than 50,000 individual TEDx talks? Eventbrite sold tickets to more than 3 million events, and Meetup was holding somewhere north of 500,000 events every month. That's to say nothing of the 92,000 professional organizations in the US alone. Events was a $37 billion industry. Now, the new normal, event managers had some choices to make. They could either cancel, postpone, somewhat indefinitely, or go virtual. And if they were running a business, if they were running an organization, they went virtual. Many organizations who were previously doing event marketing, not necessarily running their own events, suddenly realized, oh my God, we're going to have to run our own events to keep that flow of leads coming in, to keep that amount of visibility. So there are a lot of benefits for you as a budding public speaker. Number one, you have increased options. On the Innovation Women platform, we have some speakers who are overseas. We have some speakers pretty much everywhere in the world. And they're telling us that they no longer have to get on a plane and travel to the US. They can do a conference sitting in their own home. So you don't just have the opportunities that are next door, down the street. You can have opportunities all over the world. And because of the pandemic, because of the perceived lack of opportunity, there's actually been some decrease in competition as a speaker. I'm finding that a lot of speakers have said, you know what, this whole technology thing, this whole virtual speaker, not for me. I'm walking away. So in this new world, you have new opportunities. Let's talk a little bit about the business of public speaking. And don't get me wrong, this is a business for sure. When I start talking to people about speaking, there's a lot of people who come up to me and say, I want to be a public speaker. The first question I ask them is, are you really a speaker? And do you want to really be a speaker? Because if you're thinking about adding speaker to your LinkedIn profile or to your website, you may actually be giving up some money in the bank. So in terms of positioning yourself, you could be getting a better payday if you target people who are looking to hire facilitators, trainers, and consultants, because the money ends up being a little different. You notice in this chart that I'm showing, the compensation for speakers ranges from 0 up. That's because so many public speaking opportunities are not paid. There may be other great compensation and wonderful benefits, but a lot of public speaking opportunities are not paid. When you're thinking about if you're a speaker or not, you want to start by thinking about your goals. Are you looking to speak for visibility? Are you looking to speak for payment? Or is public speaking a way that you get leads? Is speaking part of your business model? So if you think about that chart I was just showing you, how do you get compensated? And if you're speaking for leads or to drive your business, how are you going to connect with that audience after you've done your presentation for marketing purposes? This is incredibly important. You're going to want to know this stuff going into this process. When you're thinking about your public speaking goals, who do you want to speak to? Who is your potential customer and where do they hang out? Now, my biography talked a little bit about my public relations background. I used to be the head of global PR at a couple of big public companies. I could walk into many different public relations conferences and get a place on the stage. But is that the place where I'm going to be picking up customers? I work primarily on the PR side with startups. My client is usually the CEO of a startup company. Are they going to be attending the PRSA conference? Probably not. That's where my competitors hang out. Doesn't mean shut yourself off from those opportunities, but understand where your actual customer or prospect lives and is spending their time. If you're thinking about specifically getting the gig, let's dive into that. Number one, most people think about public speaking and it's the single person on stage. It's potentially the keynote, the featured speaker, but there's so many other kinds of speaking opportunities. You could be a panelist. You don't even have to do a presentation for most panels. You're sitting on stage with a group of your peers, talking about the things you do every day. Decidedly low pressure, especially if you are thinking about this and you're a little bit nervous. You could be a co-presenter or do a demonstration. You could be a guest lecturer at a university or college. You could be the MC or the moderator. Or here's a way to get started. Ask a question from the audience. Now, think about this. The presentation is done. The speakers have stopped and they are asking, does anyone have any questions? You stand up, you give your name, you give your company name, you maybe put things into context a little bit and you ask your question. You have just given a mini speech to the same audience the speakers talked to a minute ago. Am I right? Not only that, but you forever have a friend among the speakers because there is nothing worse than giving a presentation, asking for questions, and hearing crickets. Not that that is a thinly veiled plea for asking questions at the end, but I'm sure you get the picture. If you're interested in getting speaking gigs, one of the basics is the call for speakers. This is how many conferences and events find their speakers. They're running something called a call for speakers, and this is connecting you directly with them. Now, what we're going to do is actually a tiny little exercise. When I'm looking for calls for speakers, I'm using that term, call for speakers or calls for papers. I'm heading off to my friend Google. If you want to open up another tab and do this along with me, it's easy. You're going to do a search, use the word call for speakers, and put in your area of expertise. When I'm looking for calls for speakers, I'm probably putting in call for speakers, public relations, call for speakers, public speaking. It's a little bit meta. Call for speakers, marketing. You may want to put quotes around the word call for speakers. There are ways that you can narrow the search. Maybe put in your location. Instead of putting in Massachusetts, I would probably put in Boston because that's where the conferences would be. You may also want to put in the year, not this year, but next year. Because if it's an annual conference, they are going to be looking for speakers ahead of time. So it's very basic. It's very easy to do. And one of the things that you can do once you've started to kind of narrow some of these searches is you can go down to the bottom of the page in Google, and it will actually show you related keywords. So in this case, I did a search for cybersecurity call for speakers, and Google suggested other keywords for me. So it's actually saying these are other things that you can search for. See what brings up the best results for you. One of the things you can also do is you can go in and look in the news section. Google is divided up into many sections. You know how you search for images or you search for videos. Well, you can also search for news. And often this will pull up the press releases that the organizations are issuing when they start announcing the calls for speakers. So again, you're narrowing down the searches, and you can even create a Google alert so that it will keep sending you opportunities over time. You don't have to do anything. They deliver them to you. All right. Super simple. This is not rocket science. It's good because I do it. Now, how do the pros do it when they actually have an opportunity that they want to get? And oh, by the way, if you found a speaking opportunity just a minute ago, drop it into the chat. I'm always dying to see what people find. Every once in a while when I'm doing this, people will be like, oh my God, I'm going to go apply for that. You got one, Laura? That's awesome. So that's fantastic. Love it. Your goal overall is to become the one speaker that everyone immediately associates with a topic. So my story around this is a couple of years ago, I got a phone call one Thursday afternoon from a young man that I knew. And he was one of the committee for the TEDx Suffolk University. And he said, you know, I'd love to talk to you about our TEDx. And of course, as a speaker, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm getting the call. You know, that's what every speaker wants. I'm going to do a TED. You know, it's a bucket list item for gosh sakes. So I'm absolutely whatever you need. Totally excited. He's like, great. My next question was, when is it? Tuesday. Yeah, everybody's dying. TEDx's are something that people prepare months for. I mean, a minimum of 3 to 6 months. You don't do it in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. No. Doesn't happen that way. And I'm like, listen, I love you, babe, but no. I'm running a speakers bureau. I do speaking. I get paid to speak. This is a career damaging move if I screw it up. And I will. There's no way I can do this in that amount of time. I will find you somebody. I have a database of 1,500 speakers. I'm sure somebody is fool enough to take you up on this. So I went and found 5 speakers, came back and gave them the 5 speakers. This was on Saturday. And on Sunday, they came back and said, no, none of these people are in our theme. We came to you because our theme is innovation. Oh, I founded Innovation Nights. I founded Innovation Women. If you're in Boston and you've got an event that's on innovation, who are you going to call? This chick. I'm the one speaker that everyone thinks about when they need a speaker on a particular topic. That's your goal. So how do you get to that? You have to focus. You have to focus what you talk about. So think about it. Is there some theme that runs through your career, your life? Like if you were going to write a book What would the title be? What would the topic be? A lot of people, when they start getting into this mode, they'll put out a message on Facebook to all their friends. And they'll say, if I wrote a book, what would my book be? They will ask, what do people expect from you? And what's the one piece of advice you would give someone? These are some of the questions as you kind of zero in on that theme. And if you can figure out what that theme is, what that thread is that runs through your life and your career, you're one step closer to figuring out the topic that gets you to be the one speaker. Then you have to go about creating your foundation. This is the skills, the credentials, the content that gets people to start associating you with a particular topic. In my case, I created some businesses that have that topic at their heart. So you're going to start really figuring out your vision and your mission. There's a lot of work that goes into creating that foundation. For some people, the foundation is a blog. Some people, it's a podcast. Some people, it's business success. So you have to think about what you can create that helps people identify you as the one speaker. If you think about it, if someone Googled you, how would they Google you? And can you create some kind of a phrase or a brand that is Googleable? And when I'm saying Googleable, what I'm talking about is a unique phrase. So as an example, remember earlier I was talking about the speaker's paradise? That's a phrase that we created. We created it and we put some thought around it, and we actually Googled it ahead of time. And people, if you Google Speaker's Paradise, you will probably come up with me. It's somewhat unique, but it also allows you to extend your brand a little bit. A brand is not necessarily a topic, and a topic is not necessarily a brand. But your most important thing is to be consistent. If you're thinking about that topic and your expertise and your brand, you also want to make sure that it overlaps with what your audience is interested in. You are nothing if what you're talking about doesn't resonate with the audience, if it doesn't solve some problem. So you have to look at the Venn diagrams and figure out where what you're doing overlaps with what the audience wants. And one of the easiest ways to figure out what audiences want and what those hot topics are to look at conferences and events and look at their agendas, see what other people are talking about, and then look for the holes, because that's where you want to be. You want to own something. You want to also start positioning yourself for speaking if you want to be a speaker, not a facilitator or a consultant. Add speaker to your biography. Share your successes. There is nothing that gets people on stage faster than being on stage. Speaking begets speaking. And every time you do a speaking presentation, ask for a testimonial. Ask for the event manager to give you a little write-up that you can keep. Maybe it's a write-up or a testimonial that's in LinkedIn, but get that in writing and make sure that you hang on to it and you share it. Now, remember what I told you my mission is? My mission is totally getting every single person in this room to say yes to public speaking. I like to beat people over the head with stuff. Yes. Okay. You guys all ready to say yes to public speaking? Yes. I love you, Laura. You nod. You're there. All right. Now, if I can help anybody with their public speaking, definitely give me a yell. And one of the things I definitely recommend is checking out Innovation Women. We've got a newsletter we send out every Friday morning at 8:45. And it always contains at least 5 free speaking opportunities every single week. And it is a great way to kind of start thinking about public speaking. And I'm going to stop there, settle myself down, and wait for the questions to just flood in all over me. I also noticed that I see some chat things. So I'm going to stop sharing and hop back out. And Linda's like, oh my God, the crazy woman that I let on my stage. Right, Linda?
No, that is absolutely not what I was thinking. I was thinking you are as suspected, as brilliant as I had experienced previously. So, Bobbie, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you very much for sharing your expertise and your wisdom.